human connection. We're built for relationships. We really are. I know there are introverts who really enjoy their time and their space, and sometimes we need our alone time, right? That's necessary for all of us. On the other hand, that human connection, making contact with someone is very important. And one of the things we know when people are really stressed, that's what they pull back from. And that's the very thing they need. And we need to kind of see that and recognize that. So connecting with people is very important.
How we react when we feel under pressure or threatened is called stress. If it lasts for a long time, it can impact our physical, emotional, and mental wellness. The K-State Research and Extension Stress and Resiliency Team provides educational information about stress, stress management, and resiliency to Kansans. On today's Sound Living, recognizing the early signs of negative stress. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. Stress impacts us all. However, we all react to it differently. K-State Research and Extension Behavioral Health Specialist Brad Dirks says learning how to manage stress when it first appears helps us to avoid having to manage layers of stress. Brad, we always hear a lot about stress, especially over the last few years with the COVID pandemic, but it is something that we deal with day in and day out. And as you've said, sometimes a little stress is not a bad thing, but when it starts turning into layer upon layer, then there's a concern.
Correct. It's summative, right? One thing we can handle, and then it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and we never know what's around the corner. We never know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we could be doing fine today, and then the next thing that happens, we kind of adjust, adapt, we show resiliency, and then there's something else that occurs, and we don't know tomorrow. So it's always, how can we adjust and adapt to those things?
And it's very individualized as well, right?
Everybody's unique in that we have different personalities, we have different understandings of the world around us, we have different philosophies and theories about things. And so how I see stress, how I adapt, or how I look at life and go, how do I conquer this? How do I problem solve? Is unique to me. And each one of us carry that uniqueness.
Is that one of the reasons that it's a little bit difficult for some people to seek help when they need help because they think they should be able to handle this themselves?
We are particularly in rural communities, and I grew up in small towns. We pride ourselves in being self-sufficient, and we pride ourselves in being able to see something, problem solve, fix it, repair it, whatever it takes. And then when it comes to mental health or our psychological status, that becomes a problem because we're not all of us are equipped to manage those stressors like we are to change oil in the car, to mow the lawn, or to do those physical things. Sometimes those mental health, those emotional things, we're not the best person to manage those.
It's also difficult in the rural areas, especially because the economy can vary so much for farmers and ranchers, and we always know that finance is a major stressor.
Day to day, season to season, in the Dakotas, they've had huge amounts of snow, and barns are collapsing. Who would have thought Easter weekend we're going to see this? And so that economy now is impacted, and some of it is regional, and some of it is more widespread. So someone, one state down could be doing fine and go, yeah, I love the snow and the moisture. And then someone else goes, yeah, but my roof can't take 3 feet of snow. So again, those stressors, those economic stressors are unique.
Part of your position at Kansas State University is dealing with ways to help the folks on the ground, our extension agents. What are some of the things that you've been working on?
You know, it's amazing to me how effective the agents in Kansas Research and Extension have been over the course of the past 2 years, and we've pivoted to do some things that we hadn't done in the past. We have a transdisciplinary team that has drawn from people, agents in foods, and agent in youth services, agent in aging and ag, and we bring them together, and then we look at this mental health conundrum that we have with the additional stressors in our lives, and we try to address that. So it's been amazing to see that we have now developed kind of a speakers bureau, and we have multiple individuals who are trained to go into communities and to present QPR, question, persuade, refer, which is helping understand, recognizing, and intervening in a suicide situation, depression. We have mental health first aid instructors who are able to go into community, either with a bank or a school or a church or a service organization, and present ways to manage to help that unique community address their unique needs. We have set up meetings all across the state this fall that we are going to go into the communities, have the stakeholders sit around a table and just talk about what are our needs, how can we begin to know what's out there, what resources are available. And that's the key. I am just totally amazed by a number of resources that are being brought about to bear on this problem. The difficulty is, how does someone in a small rural community in Kansas now get connected or know what's out there? And that is where the KSRE agents and the specialists that are in the system can be amazing connecting points for people to say, where is this? How can I get this? And they can have that, or they know who to ask to answer that question. And that's the key. We don't all know the answers, but we know where we can find the answers or who we can connect with.
So that community link is really vital to this effort?
Absolutely. And traditionally we think of those links in food services. We think about them in 4-H. We think about them in ag and aging. But we also have those links available from a mental health and a stress perspective. Again, we have really developed a lot of resources, including the KSRE webpage that now has health and stress resources that, again, we don't have all the answers, but again, there's many connections even through that webpage to many other sites around the area. And there's so much available, and I just encourage people to connect with the agents, with the specialists, with the website. Amazing resources.
They can do programs, they can talk about this, and that's a good starting point, isn't it? Especially when we're talking about mental health issues. Sometimes it's difficult to do one-on-one. It might actually be easier to just go to a program that has a lot of people there.
And, you reach more people when you do unique small programs. We're not talking 200 or 300 people. If there's a community and you get 5 or 6 people to talk about things, and the agent can either do that or has the resources to bring that about. We're also developing, I'm working with men's physical health, and there are resources and programs that your community can present for the men in the community that, how do you manage not only your mental health, but your physical health? And we're developing resources in all those areas that are available if we just access them.
Talk a little bit more about the management aspect. How do we start when something is maybe a small stressor to help prevent that from becoming that layered stress that we were talking about earlier?
Early intervention is the key, and sometimes we're the worst at recognizing when our cup is about ready to boil over, or the pot's just right up at the top. And the better we can be at either recognizing it or on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times we go, I'm stressed out, I need to manage it. The question is, how can we keep that down so that it doesn't get to that place? And, there are things we can do. You eat right, you get plenty of sleep, you get exercise, and those things. One of the things I'd like to mention is we need to do something that's fun. We've lost a lot of and sometimes the younger generation is leading the way in how do I have fun? Maybe too much fun sometimes, but it's in the workaday world we get so focused on completing our task, and that's understandable. What have you done that's fun? What have you done to enjoy the day? If the news is all negative and we focus on the negative, that continues to build. If we can have fun once in a while, go to a movie, go fishing, go hunting, hang out with whatever you do for fun. If you can build that into your day, into your week, maybe once a week, take a break and do something that you enjoy. You'll find that's a good way to reduce stress. And if you can keep that down, then when those things come that challenge us, that we don't expect, we have more reserve. If we don't keep that stress at a lower level, then when something happens, it's easy to overflow.
This may sound like a silly question, but is there a difference between stress and anxiety? Because sometimes I hear those almost interchangeably.
The way I see it, and everyone obviously has their own definition, stress is ubiquitous. It happens. It's there. We know it is. Anxiety is often our emotional or neurochemical response to stress, to adverse experiences, to things that happen. And so to me, working in psychiatry many years, I see anxiety is an emotional response to stress. And there's neurochemistry involved. There's serotonin, there's GABA, there's dopamine, all these things that are going on in your brain that contribute to our response to stress. And how we respond, again, is unique because we're each built uniquely in our physical beings.
How important is it for us to be a support for others who we think, gosh, they just seem a little off today? Maybe I should have just a quick chat with them. Is that something that we should do or not do?
Yeah. I think it's I'll say it one more time. I think we've said it about 20 times. Most therapy is done over a cup of coffee. And sometimes you don't have to be a therapist to intervene. You just have to say, hi, what's going on? And then be willing to listen. And sometimes when we're at a tipping point and we have that stress going on in our life, if someone comes in and sits with us and just says, hey, let's have a soda, let's have a coffee, what's going on? And just opens that door. We're not good at seeing our own level of stress or distress. We're a little better at seeing others. So if we can see those around us who are at that point, or even doing it on a daily basis, keeping that stress down. Again, we don't want to wait till that stress is at a point where we have to intervene. If we can meet regularly, once a week, sit down and have coffee with someone that you know is struggling, or that you want to make sure that there continues some health. I think that's the way to go. We don't want to wait till we're at a place where we have to go seek professional help. It's there. We want to make sure it's there. We'd like to have more of it available. On the other hand, I think is caring for one another. Self-care is doing something fun and enjoyable, and then caring for one another is just touching base. Making connection with people is so important.
I think we heard a lot about isolation during the pandemic, and that's one thing that we're starting to finally break away from now. So for some people, that's almost a reintroduction into that communication, the one-on-one communication.
Connection is so important. Human connection, we're built for relationships. We really are. I know there are introverts who really enjoy their time and their space, and sometimes we need our alone time, right? That's necessary for all of us. On the other hand, that human connection, making contact with someone is very important. And one of the things we know when people are really stressed, that's what they pull back from. And that's the very thing they need. And we need to kind of see that and recognize that. So connecting with people is very important.
And as you mentioned, Extension has a lot of resources. And if they don't have the resources, they can find the resources.
They can connect. I call us triage agents, right? We don't have all the answers, but we know where we can get them. And there's people who are working across different specialties, different resources like 4-H. And again, we have so many things available. There are people who are specialists, and they can reach across the aisle and make those connections, or find someone who can. That's our job.
And as you mentioned, you have everything on one site now.
Yeah, the website is being developed and enhanced, particularly from a mental health perspective. And they've done a great job. There's been some individuals working very hard to kind of make that user-friendly and more accessible, so you don't have to click through 20 different things to get what you need. It's all there. So, again, that's a way to make connection, right?
And what's the easiest way to find that webpage?
KSRE, Kansas Research and Extension, and it's going to come up, and you just click on the link, and then it opens up a plethora of other links that you can click on. There's lectures, there's programs, there's connection to other states and what they're doing. And again, it's just a matter of making connection. There's so many resources available.
That's K-State Research and Extension Behavioral Health Specialist Brad Dirks. More information about stress management is available at county and district extension offices and on the Extension website, ksre.ksu.edu. Under the Health tab, click on Stress Management and then Resources. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.